I know it. He'll be back before you know it. Good evening. For those of you in the audience who have not attended one of these hearings recently, let me review a normal procedure. Staff will introduce each item for consideration. If you'd like to speak, please fill out the speaker form located on the table in the lobby and indicate the item number and whether you are for or against the item. And please give the form to the clerk seated on my left. The applicant and supporters will be heard first. Those in opposition to the request will be heard next. Then the applicant may be given a chance for rebuttal if necessary. Comments should be restricted to pertinent information regarding the agenda item under discussion. If you're an individual, you will have 3 minutes for comments. If you're speaking on behalf of a group, you will have 6 minutes for comments. Speakers should move closer to the podium when their item is being presented by staff. Speakers should identify themselves clearly for the record by saying their name and address. Each speaker should be given respectful and courteous attention. The board may ask questions of speakers or staff members. Information such as pictures, site plans, letters, etc., presented at a public hearing will be kept as part of the public record. If you have something on your cell phone you want to show us, we love to see it, but you have to promise to send it to staff after the hearing. Otherwise, they have to keep your cell phone, and I'm sure you don't want to give us your cell phone. I will then ask for a motion from the board. Once a motion has been made and seconded, discussion will be closed to the floor. Following board discussion, a vote will be taken. During voting, board members who do not cast objecting votes are considered to have voted in support of the motion. Any person aggrieved by any decision of the Board of Adjustment may, within 15 days, file an appeal to the Board of County Commissioners through the Planning and Development Division of the Development Services Department. Okay, we're ready for our first item.
Good evening. For the record, Angie Gates. Item number 1 is a request for a side street east setback variance from 50 feet to 37 feet for a detached garage in the A1 Agricultural District in the Mandarin Section subdivision located at 1201 Pomelo Court. The proposed detached garage will be 864 square feet and will encroach 13 feet into the required side street south setback. 3 letters of opposition were received from surrounding neighbors. I provided a new map so that you could see where the opposition came from. The proposed detached garage, if approved, shall be used for personal use only, no commercial business or special events permitted. This concludes my presentation. Should you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, we have questions for staff. Okay, is the applicant present? Yes, is there anything you would like to add to staff presentation?
Sure, do I go to Anderson?
Yeah, you're going to need to come up to the podium if you want to speak and state your name and address.
James Dunn, 1201 Pomelo Court. Do I have permission to get the people that object information?
What I need you to do is tell us what you want to tell us.
Okay, I'll tell you what, first
Okay.
of all, the variance specifications is kind of vague. I'm not really asking for 35 feet. I'm asking for a pie shape, 35 feet, from 35 feet, from 13 foot to 0 at 21 feet. So it's not really encroaching to 35 feet. I'm also asking for permission to build a garage, not a storage shed, in my driveway. If you look at the layout of my property, the only place where I could put the garage, not a storage shed, would be on the far side of my property, totally opposite of the house, totally opposite of the garage. I have 2 children that are about to start driving, so I need a garage in my driveway. So I can't push it back because my septic tank and my leaching field is there. So the only place that the garage could fit logically and properly is exactly where I'm putting it. And I'm only asking for a pie shape encroachment on the 50-foot setback, not a full, 15 feet like it sounds like in the application. If you come back 21 feet from the front of the garage. Now I'm within the 50-foot setback. I have a picture of what it looks like totally. I also have 2 letters from neighbors. The town sent a letter to my neighbor Matt next door. I have a letter from him saying he has no objection to it. He couldn't make it here today because he's a businessman. And I have the other neighbor that's on the other side of me that you sent the letter to, who's also here to speak in non-opposition. He thinks there's no problem with it.
Okay, do you have copies of the letter, sir?
Yes, I do.
You can go ahead and give it to her, she'll pass it to us.
Who gets it?
She'll take care of it.
One letter is from the gentleman that's not here. The other letter is from the gentleman that's here. He wasn't sure if he could make it today because of the weather, his age, so he gave me a letter, but he was able to make it.
Okay. Okay, is there anything else you'd want to tell us?
Well, I'd like to know why there's people that are opposition. We have in the Mandarin Estates,
Sir, can you move your cell phone away from the microphone?
what's off? In the Mandarin Estates where my property is, just about every building, every lot has a huge garage and a huge storage building on it. So for somebody to be in opposition in a neighborhood that just about every lot has a huge building on it is unbelievable. Plus, within a 3-block radius, there are, that I know of, 2 variances already allowed. The house on the corner, 3 houses from me, he applied for variance to build an extension on his house, was granted. A little further down Sunshine Tree on Rutledge, one of my neighbors applied for variance to build a portico in front of his house. That was granted to him. So for me not to get a variance to build a garage in my driveway would be ludicrous.
Okay. As far as the objectors, we will see who comes up to speak, and you obviously can hear them, and if there's opposition here speaking against it, I'll give you a chance for rebuttal on the items that they raise.
Okay?
Okay? As far as reading them, you'd have to get with staff. It's public record, everything that's sent in.
Right.
Okay? And I don't know how this is going to turn out, but if this is ruled against you, you also have an option of appealing our decision.
That's good, because obviously,
I said, I don't know how this vote is going to turn out.
Okay.
But if we vote against it, then you still have an option of appealing our decision.
and how would I go about that?
The staff would help you, it goes to the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay.
Okay.
So can my neighbor testify now?
I promise, I'll get to it.
Okay, well, I'm
We
new at
start
this.
with the person
I'm new
who
at
filed
this.
the request, and then we'll go on. Are you good?
Some people say yes, some people say no.
All right. Anybody have a question for the applicant?
Applicant.
I do, Mr. Chair. So have you checked with the other neighbors? Like I said, we'll get to that in a second, but have you personally kind of walked around? Because you know the county sends out the letters
Right.
to everyone that's, the properties adjacent to or surrounding. Have you had a chance to speak with the other residents?
Well, I spoke to probably 5 or 6 in
Okay.
the immediate area.
Okay.
They all have huge garages. They're all car guys like me, so they all don't care. But there are 2 people that I know for a fact. One of them lives directly across the street from me that for some reason doesn't like me. One of the reasons is she drives her side-by-side on the city streets all the time, and I complained about it. It's against the law to drive a side-by-side on a city
Okay,
street.
no, that's,
Right.
I'm sorry, what's a
So-
side-by-side?
It's like a quad, those big things that you ride in the dirt.
Oh, like a four-wheeler type thing?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The officer that came said it was a side-by-side. So for somebody to have an opposition against a garage in a driveway in a community that legitimately almost every lot has a tremendous garage on it, and I did speak to Larry Gary, I spoke to Matt, I spoke to a guy named Frank who lives 5 minutes down the block.
so names don't help me. It's just I look at addresses, but okay.
I know addresses, I know
I just
names.
did ask if you had spoken,
But
so
I
thank you.
spoke to the guy that lives over there who runs a business out of his house, and I spoke to Skip, who lives next door to me, spoke to Matt, who lives next door to me, and I spoke to the guy that lives next door to him. So off the top of my head, I spoke to probably 5 people in the neighborhood, and you'll have no problem.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Yes, sir.
And also, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, maybe a quick question for staff since I came in.
Absolutely.
I apologize for being late. And also based on what the gentleman's saying, are we aware of any properties in this general vicinity who might have garages built inconsistent with the land development code?
There are some garages that were built that received building permits. They meet the setbacks.
Yeah.
I know that in the vicinity and
Yeah.
the proximity, the close proximity, we didn't have any variances. There's lots of sheds and things like that, but nothing like this.
Sure.
That-
And we're not aware of any code enforcement actions for any of those,
No.
or?
No.
Got you. I got you. And Mr. Dunn, my questions is there a possibility of putting this on the left side of the house?
No. Well, anything's possible, but like I explained, if you look at my lot, the left side of my house is nowhere near the driveway. So to park plus, why would you want me to ruin all of that beautiful grass with a building and a driveway? To put it on the left side, when I come out of my garage, or my kids come out of the garage, they're gonna have to run 300 to 400 feet. Can I come up to that picture and show this a little better?
It's behind.
Oh, look at that.
And if you would use that microphone right there, so that we can hear what you're saying. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
can tell it
Try it
won't-
again. Try it again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. This is Sunshine Tree Boulevard. This is my house. This is a carport. I want to build it here, taking a triangle here. This is my driveway. So when you come home, you go into the driveway. You go into the garage. You come under the carport, you go in the house. Why would I want to build a garage here where you got to do all of this to go into the house on a rainy, hot summer day? Why would you want me to ruin all of this beautiful greenery, probably have to take down 2 trees, to put a garage where it doesn't fit? Why would you want me to do that?
I don't want you to do anything. I'm just curious.
That was a rhetorical question. So the only logical place to put it where you come in my driveway is right here. I can't put it here because my septic tank is here and my leaching field is here. I can't push it back because it'll be in my leaching field. So the only thing to do is move it a little bit forward and steal 13 feet to nothing, little triangle here.
Sir, why not place it where the carport's at?
Because then I lose the carport. That doesn't make sense. And then I have to, I'm blocking the garage because the carport is connected to the garage. If I put a garage here, I got a garage in front of a garage?
So you have a garage, you have a carport, and you want to put another detached garage?
Correct.
Okay.
Right. In the driveway.
I got you.
Thank you, sir. That answers my question.
Do we have any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, sir.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
How do I get the names of the people that are in opposition?
You can call me tomorrow and you can do a public records
Thank
request.
you. They're gonna
I'm sure
call-
they can give you copies of the letters and everything.
When do they call?
In a minute.
Oh,
Okay.
they're gonna call it.
Raymond Bowen?
That's me.
Come on down. You gave us a request to speak.
Come on down.
Please state your name and address.
I'm sorry, I'm hard of hearing, so.
Please state your name and address.
I'm Raymond Bowen. I'm 1223 Sunshine Tree Boulevard in Longwood, 32779.
Okay. What would you like to tell us, sir?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, sir. You can speak.
You would like to say to the board? What would you like to say to the board?
Oh, what did well, I wrote it down. You might have the copy of the letter that I had sent. But I've been a resident in Mandarin for 12 years now, a little more than 12 years. And when I moved in there, it was because it was a rural setting. They told me I could raise cows, chickens, whatever I wanted to do. Well, I'm not in the mood to raise chickens right now. So, but I'm accustomed to seeing garages and buildings and so on, and that's part of the rural setting that I enjoy. And I happen to be Jim's neighbor. I live right behind him, the lot that's behind me. And I just wanted to state that I have no objections. We're talking about, the way I understand it, a 13-foot variance, which is a blink of an eye. It's not going to make much difference, but it allows to keep his carport and everything else in a symmetrical kind of a cluster. It would look, to me, it would look all right. I have no objections, and I just wanted to, if it goes to a vote, or if, I don't know how you work this out, but I'm in favor of Jim being approved for that little variance. It doesn't make much difference, not to me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to
Sure.
speak, and I apologize for being hard of hearing, but that's
that's
one
okay.
of the benefits of getting old, so, thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Connie, is it, no,
Brashear?
Brazier?
Brashear?
Good evening.
Hi,
Would you please state your name and address?
Connie Campbell Brashear. I live at 1644 Rutledge Road, which is right around the corner. I've lived there since 1984 and bought the house from my parents in 1999. So I've been a long time. I grew up in Mandarin. I'm also a civil engineer, and I just wanted to bring about maybe an engineering discussion about why the setbacks, the 50-foot setbacks, is necessary. Right there, that's a perfect picture. I pulled that up from Google Earth myself. There's the argument in the complaint about, you brought up the carport, reorienting the garage to then continue back from that existing carport. There's two mature trees that are right there on that side that would probably cause foundation problems for any kind of new structure that would be there. Because, looking at it, if the trees are to remain, that wasn't part of his plan, but a savvy designer can absolutely design a garage with the lateral constraints off of there. But if you'll notice, there's minimal curb, so it does pose, and there is a line of sight from as you're coming out onto the major thoroughfare. We do have a number of speeders that has increased greatly through that neighborhood. That 50-foot setback is, I know no one would probably be sleeping in the garage, but it would certainly be in harm's way should there be a car accident. So as far as that's kind of why there are setbacks. It's, from what I can tell, it's not a utility issue, because 50 feet, we don't have that huge of a, we got underground power, we've got, water and the usual, but it's all located, right there, just pretty close to the curb. So, just strictly looking at it from an engineering standpoint, a designer should be able to design that garage. And there are many garages in the neighborhood. They all are in the back. We have a wonderful, I love living in Mandarin. We have, everybody has the ability to have, their self-expression. We can have, great parties in the neighborhood with, acre plus lots. And again, I absolutely adore my neighbors. And I've known them for, some of them 40 years. So, just to wrap it up, it's a tight, wonderful neighborhood. And there are many abilities and extra features that people have put on their property. So fundamentally, I'm not opposed to that whatsoever. It's just that encroachment upon that major thoroughfare, I don't think is in harmony with the rest of the neighborhood. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes.
Oh, you have a question
Oh, I'm sorry.
for her?
Just real quick, as you held yourself out as an engineer
Yes,
and an
sir.
expert, what flavor of engineer are you?
I'm a forensic geotechnical structural engineer.
Gotcha. Are you a
Sinkholes in the lake.
Are you a PE?
I am.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
And disclosure of potential conflict of interest. Ms. Campbell-Brashear and I were colleagues many years ago at the same company.
Okay, is there anyone else to speak in support of the request? Or is there anyone else to speak in opposition to the request? Okay, sir,
Do I get to rebut?
you have a chance for rebuttal. Please keep it centered on the issues that she brought up.
I see she was a PE. I was a licensed contractor for 40 years, a home builder in New York for 40 years. First of all, half of her is wrong. The utilities come in from the back. So as far as encroaching on utilities and utility problems, not going to happen. As far as the structural damage to the foundation doesn't, the building doesn't get a foundation. It gets footings and a slab. So there is no structural damage. As far as encroachment on the easement, on the curve, the speed limit is 25 miles an hour. So even if somebody was doing 35 miles an hour and breaking the speed limit, which we know we don't do, when they come around that curve, they would have to be blind and dumb to cross over 35 feet of grass, crash into a building at full speed ahead. So the 3 points that she brought up as a PE are totally baseless. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Do we have a motion?
Yes. Do we have a discussion first before?
Motion, the discussion.
Okay. Motion for opening of a discussion among the board.
Do you have a motion on the?
Approve or deny?
To approve or disapprove?
Motion to continue this next month, and I would like to explain why I'm proposing that.
Okay. Do we have a second to the motion?
Second for discussion purposes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I reviewed this entire packet over the weekend. There was no attachment of neighbor support or opposition to this particular variance. As I sat down this evening, we have 3 letters in opposition from neighbors who couldn't be here today. One who actually did make it in person for a total of 4. We have apparently 2 neighbors in support of the motion, one who actually came here. I'm not exactly sure where all of these neighbors stand, but it seems to me that this situation is a lot more acrimonious than it might have seemed on first review, the situation between the neighbors, that is. For us to approve this variance request at this time, I think, might be a bit premature before those in opposition have a chance to have their day in court, because if there are this many people in opposition and this goes ahead, it's going to throw a grenade into the neighbor situation. I think having the additional neighbors who couldn't make it here tonight make their case in person, there would be some benefit to that before we make a decision one way or another.
Sorry, from a staff standpoint, I'm sorry that you guys don't get the letters all the time in your packages, but we don't get them all the time before the package is printed, and it's not going to go back to reprint.
That wasn't a knock against you.
No, I
Please don't take it that
know.
way.
But it's not going to go, so whatever we get, we send them to you as we get them,
Yes.
or as in one lump sum, we send them to everybody.
No
So
worries.
that's why you
We
didn't
know,
get
we know.
them.
No
Yeah.
worries.
Also, the opposition doesn't have to be here, just to state their opposition, nor does support, just.
So we have a-
Granted that, thank you, granted that the support or opposition showing up in person is not mandatory for us to consider the variance. However, the number of people chiming in with an opinion on this and the apparent strong feelings one way or another, that's why I think that additional consideration of the topic with direct input from the people involved, the stakeholders, is warranted. That's why I wanted to continue this until next month.
Okay. Well, let me ask the applicant a question. Sir,
Yes, sir.
would you prefer that we go ahead and vote on this today?
Yes, I would, because in law, you're supposed to have your day in court. If they can't make it, then they shouldn't be heard. So I think that this gentleman is wrong.
Well, I suspect that, okay, that's fine, that's all I need to know.
I think we should vote on this.
Well, okay, so I suspect whether we approve or disapprove your application, it's going to be appealed to the Board of County Commissioners, because there's a number of people objecting. So, and you obviously want it strongly, so either way, it's probably going to have another hearing.
Well, 3 doesn't sound like a lot of people opposing
Well-
something.
It only takes one to object and ask for an appeal.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I might, while the gentleman's there,
Yes, sir.
just so I hear what you're saying, you'd rather take your chances tonight rather than perhaps wait till our next meeting and see if you can bridge the differences with your neighbors.
Well, can I speak frankly? The
If you
differences
think that's
with
a
my
good idea.
Okay. The differences between my neighbors are not going to change. And the reason why they're not going to change is because I'm a car guy. All of the people in my neighborhood are car guys, except for 3. We have a car show at my house once a month, which they've called the police on me about. So unless I stop my car show the second Thursday of the month, they'll never change their opinion. And I'm not stopping my car show on the second day of the month because there are 3 people, and I quote, "We don't want this in our neighborhood." Quote.
I follow what you're saying, and you're talking about days in court. I am a trial attorney.
Okay.
I strongly suggest you contemplate the idea, a good compromise leaves nobody happy.
Right,
And that's what-
absolutely, I agree 100%.
And-
My brother's an attorney too, by the way.
I'm sorry. And,
Me too. He's sorry too, actually.
all right, just, you're a grown man and you're able to make decisions. We're just, and we see folks who initially don't always don't get along with their
Right.
neighbors or maybe disagree, and I'm just suggesting that perhaps, okay, I'll stop. You don't want to do that? You don't want to do that?
Well, my thinking is, the problem here is, if we wait until your next meeting, excuse me, is another month, what's going to change with his opinion? These people are not going to come down and speak because they don't have to speak, and they're going to be afraid to speak in front of me. So his questions are not going to be answered. Then I have to wait a month for you to decide whether or not I'm going to get it. You're probably going to deny it because you're afraid that it's going to be a grenade thrown into the county. Then I have to file another application to the county, who?
Board of County
The
Commissioners.
Board of County Commissioners, which could take another couple of months. So let me just file the Board of Application tomorrow, when you guys deny me.
Let me just make one more try. And First
Okay.
off, let me promise you, I'm not afraid of anything.
Neither am I.
Born and raised in this county. I'm not afraid of anything or any government, but in this room, all the time, real estate developers come in with projects, and they're citizen opposition. And those developers, the county commission will tell them, we'll tell them, other boards will tell them, go talk to those folks, find a compromise, and it usually works. Now, you have the right to say, no, I want to vote tonight, and that's your right, but I'm just suggesting.
So let me get this straight then. If I tell you don't vote tonight, I come back next month. What happens if I tell you don't vote?
No promises, no guarantees, but if you come back and you can work out a compromise with your friends, with your neighbors, maybe they become friends, and these objections disappear, that's a different consideration for this board than when we do have objections. That's all I'm saying is, perhaps take the opportunity to make the objections go away.
But I just explained the objection,
I understand.
and I'm not going to stop my car show.
All right, I'm done. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, we have a motion on the table to continue it to the next meeting. All in favor of the motion, say aye. All opposed? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Do we have another motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll move to deny it.
Second.
And, yeah, if we want to discuss it, we can discuss it, but just,
Okay.
yeah,
Do we have any discussion?
where I'm coming from on it is just, and it's, you guys have heard me say it before, I'm a big believer in investment-backed expectations and property rights. And if nobody was in opposition, if we didn't have these letters, that'd be one thing. But people have the right to stand on their rights. And you know,
Okay.
that's how our democracy works.
All right, any other discussion? We have a motion to deny. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the motion is denied. You have 15 days to file an appeal to the Board of County Commissioners.
Point of procedure, Mr. Chair? Who was our second?
I was.
I'm sorry, I went deaf there, I'm sorry.
That's it. Get with staff tomorrow, and they can help you file the appeal. Okay? Good luck to you, sir. All right, next item?
Item number 2 is a request for a side street north setback variance from 20 feet to 10 feet for a fence in the PD Plan Development District in the River Bend at Cameron Heights subdivision located at 4073 Silver Stream Terrace. The subject property is a corner lot considered to have two front yards for setback purposes. The front of the house faces Silver Stream Terrace, and the looking glass, place side is where the variance is being sought. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility, and the proposed privacy fence will be 10 feet from the sidewalk and 23 feet from the edge of pavement. There have not been any prior variances for this subject property, but I do know that we did get an email request about how many variances were approved in the subdivision for fences, and so far we've had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 approved for similar variance. And this concludes my presentation. Should you have any questions for staff, I'd be happy to answer.
Hey, any questions for staff? Yes, sir.
Amongst those 9 that you mentioned of previously granted variances, included in that list, is their backyard neighbor included in that list?
I can actually help you with that one if I may.
Yes.
I asked this very same question of staff over the weekend when I was doing my review. The adjoining neighbor to the backyard at 2001 Apalachicola Lane does have an approved variance on file. You can, I believe you could see it in slide 5 of 6 and 6 of 6.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
that's the
seeing it
one
on-
right there on the right side of the screen.
Yeah, I'm seeing it on this thing. Yeah.
And right there.
Yeah.
And the Google Earth aerial image is a little bit more up-to-date than this right here, which just shows a blank vacant lot. Thank you.
In receiving that answer,
yeah,
when was that variance granted?
2021.
26th of 2021.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. And that distance is 15 feet setback, as opposed to the 10 that is currently being asked for on this.
So it would be 4 of
Application.
the other fence, 5 feet.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
Sorry.
Okay, is the applicant present? Sir, is there anything you would like to add? No. Do we have any questions for the applicant? Actually, I have one question for you, sir. I need you to come up to the podium, please. Please state your name and address.
Elroy Pasco, 4073 Silver Stream Terrace, Sanford, Florida.
Okay. Your neighbor's fence is set back at 15 feet from the property line. You're requesting 10 feet. Normally, when we have existing fences, a lot of people want to line their fences up with the neighbor for visual appeal within the neighborhood, but yours is going to kind of jut forward another 5 feet. Why do you need that extra 5 feet?
So I could enjoy more of my yard.
Okay. Is there anything in particular you have planned for that side of the house or requires it? How did you come up with that distance?
It's on a corner lot, so I just thought if I had more enclosed, I could enjoy my yard more.
Okay. And then how far would that place the fence from your house?
It's gonna go up to the window, so 10 feet from the house. I mean,
I see it now. I missed it. It's small, I'm getting old. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir. You have a
Also,
question for the applicant?
No, not for the applicant.
Okay, you're good. Thank you.
I also, with the applicant, I used to work with the applicant as well, so just
Okay.
to get it out there, but there's no
All right.
financial or anything else.
Okay. Do we have anyone else to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve, do we have a second? Okay, we don't have a second, so the motion is going to die. Do we have another motion?
I have a motion.
Yes, sir.
I have a motion to approve at the 15 feet setback that was granted previously to the adjoining neighbor.
So it would line the fences up,
Correct.
okay? So we have a motion to approve the request with a modification to 15 feet instead of 10 feet from the property line. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Sir, it's approved, but at 15 feet from the property line, not 10, so your fence will line up with your neighbor's fence. You have 15 days to appeal our decision to the Board of County Commissioners if you're not happy with it, okay? You can build a fence, it just can't be 10 feet off the property line, it has to be 15 feet. So it'll be a smooth fence from your neighbors to your yard. Okay? All right, good luck to you. You have 15 days, and if you talk to staff, they'll be happy to help you with that. All right, next item?
Just making notes. Item number 3 is a request for a side yard east setback variance from 10 feet to 1.5 feet for a shed in the R1AA Single Family Dwelling District in the San Leandro Springs subdivision located at 347 Beach Avenue. The proposed shed will be 120 square feet and will encroach 8.5 feet into the required east side yard setback. 3 letters of support were submitted by adjacent neighbors, and there have not been any prior variances for this subject property. This concludes my presentation.
Any questions for staff? Is the applicant present? Sir, is there anything you would like to add? No. Okay, do we have any questions for the applicant?
Excellent exhibits.
Okay. Is there anyone else to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? We have a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion approved. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is granted. It's approved. Good luck to you. That is very excellent. Easy to understand. Thank you. All right, next item?
Item number 4 is a request for a side street north setback variance from 25 feet to 21 feet for a fence in the R1AA Single Family Dwelling District and the Trim Acres subdivision located at 801 Bill Dot Drive. The property is a corner lot considered to have 2 front yards for setback purposes. The front of the house faces Bill Dot Drive. The Mayflower Lane side is where the variance is being sought. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility. The replacement privacy fence is 54 feet from the edge of pavement, and there are no sidewalks in place at this time. Code enforcement violation 23-34 for unpermitted construction of a white privacy fence was issued for this property, resulting in the necessity of this variance. There have not been any prior variances for the subject property, and this concludes my presentation.
Any questions for staff?
I got one.
Yes, sir.
Staff, just reading over the criteria, I also looked a little bit over the weekend. It looked like there had been, this was just a pre-existing fence, even though there was no permit for it. There was just a fence up that was, and the homeowner was just replacing it, correct?
Yes,
But there was no,
correct.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm being dim. Are you saying that the prior fence, the old wooden fence, that was lawfully non-conforming?
I could not find a building permit. I don't know when the fence was placed, and we only go back so far, so
Sure.
I could not find a building permit.
So we just, to be fair, we don't have any evidence that it's...
Correct.
Yeah, gotcha. Thank you, ma'am.
Correct.
So the old fence was replaced with the new existing fence the violation was then discovered and reported. Now that's what
Yes.
was brought before us. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, is the applicant present? Is there anything you would like to add? Are there any questions for the applicant? Okay, is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? We have a motion.
Mr. Chair, move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Motion's granted. It's approved. Good luck. All right, next item.
Item number 5 is a request for a side street east setback variance from 35 feet to 26 feet for a fence in the RC1 Single Family Dwelling District and the Winter Springs subdivision located at 1080 Dyson Drive. The subject property is a corner lot considered to have 2 front yards for setback purposes. The front of the house faces Dyson Drive, and the Deer Run side is where the variance is being sought. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility. 5 letters of support were received from surrounding neighbors, and the replacement privacy fence will be 49 feet from the edge of pavement, and there are no sidewalks in place at this time. There have not been any prior variances for the subject property, and this concludes my presentation.
Any questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Is there anything you would like to add? Come on down. You're the next contestant, as they say. State your name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Diane Johnson. I live at 1080 Dyson Drive, Winter Springs, 32708. I started to try to get my fence replaced in the same location starting last December. I was told that the variance was 35 feet. However, at present, the fence that was built before I moved in is at 26.9, and the previous owner had not permitted. That was over at least 10 years ago. If I move it in 8 feet, there would be a hardship as far as relocating bushes and relocating a swing set. The gate, which is facing Dyson, would disappear. That would involve removing a post. We did look at other options to improve visibility. You said visibility wasn't a problem?
It was not an issue with traffic engineering.
Fantastic. I do have the letters from my neighbors who have lived there 10, 17, 25, and 30 years, and there's not been a problem. I hate to say that the house is in the way before the fence that is set up, but we just really want to replace the fence as it is, as it has been at least for 10 years. Any questions?
Any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
A motion approved. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. It's approved. Good luck to you. That's not an uncommon problem, by the way. People buy houses, there's fences where they were never permitted, where they've been there so long that it outdates the zoning, or they just put it up and never asked. It happens.
A lot.
A lot.
A lot.
All right, next item?
We're requesting that item number 6 be continued to the June meeting.
Okay,
June 26th, thank you, Hillary, for improper posting
okay, do you need a
or
motion?
lack of posting.
You need a motion on that since it,
No?
no, okay. All right, next item?
Good evening. For the record, Hillary Payton, Planning and Development. Item number 7 is a variance request for 1105 Otter Lane located in the Winter Springs subdivision. The request is for a south side yard setback reduction from 20 feet to 13 feet 11 inches for an accessory structure in the RC1 zoning district. The request is to convert an existing detached gazebo into a 508 square foot game room with a bathroom 6 feet and 1 inch into the side yard setback. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Question for you. You said detached with a bathroom. I thought we prohibited detached structures with a bathroom.
correct, there's been a recent determination that as long as we can confirm, either by the Board of Adjustment actually can make a condition of approval or through the building permit process, that the structure will be not used for a guest house or living
Okay.
space, or converted and utilized as a ADU, accessory dwelling unit.
Okay, so there's been a change based on determination. Okay.
Right, but we do need to put conditions to ensure that
I got you. Okay. I learn something new every day.
we do too.
Okay, any questions for staff? All right, is the applicant present?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything you would like to say, sir?
No, sir.
Do we have any questions for the applicant? Okay. Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second, any discussion?
Would we have to specify in the motion that we would be moving to approve with the condition that the structure, proposed structure, not be used as an ADU?
Yes.
Or
It's a good point, she's at...
would that have to be done right now?
Yes.
Yes, we would need to do it now, so are y'all willing to modify the motion to
Yes.
include
Yes.
the language that's not to be a
Make a motion
dwelling?
to,
And I would like for you to include guest house or accessory dwelling unit.
So moved.
Please.
yes.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion with the modifications requested by staff, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. It's approved. Do you understand the modification, sir?
No, I didn't quite understand the last.
Okay, so our code previously was interpreted to say that you couldn't put a bathroom in a detached structure away from the house. They had to be connected somehow, often by causeways, whatever. There's been a change that allows your bathroom, but we have to have language that states that you cannot use it for a guest house, you can't sleep people in there, it's just a game room, like you said. Okay, so we added that language so that it fits what the code allows. Okay? And if you have any questions about that, if you call staff, they'll break it down for you. All right? Thank you. All right, next item.
Item number 8 is a variance request for 3238 Upland Point, located in the Hideaway Cove at Oviedo subdivision. The request is for a south side street setback reduction from 15 feet to 3.5 feet for a privacy fence in the Hideaway Cove plan development. The subject property is a corner lot and has 2 front yards for setback purposes. The front of the house faces Upland Point. The scenic edgeway side is where the variance is being sought. The request is to construct a 6-foot vinyl privacy fence 11.5 feet into the required side street setback. The proposed privacy fence is 3.5 feet from the sidewalk and 15 feet from the edge of pavement. The proposed fence encroaches into a utility easement, and a building permitting will be required to meet the criteria for placement with an estoppel letter. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility. 2 letters of support have been received from adjacent neighbors. Well, not necessarily adjacent, but this concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for staff? Yes, sir.
Ms. O'Leary, what can you tell us about the fence that was erected at the rear of the property that everyone seems to share?
Ms. Hamel would like to answer that
Ms.
question
Hamel,
as well.
what can you tell us?
Upon further research, the fence was approved as part of the final master plan while the subdivision was being constructed by the builder. And so while the ground was being prepped prior to the houses being constructed, this fence was erected. But it was done through that process, but the fence doesn't meet our setbacks for corner lots. And so the lots weren't created yet, and so that's how the fence was able to get through the loophole.
Neat trick.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
So the fence was laid down first, and then they laid down the property lines after the
The
fact?
plat, well, they had already, it's the recording of the plat that then establishes the lots. Did they know what the layout was going to be? Absolutely. but formally, it had not been approved.
So,
And that's something that we are going to address as part of our process. Now that we understand the loophole, we will
okay.
be addressing.
So, because I get it, they put fences up for construction all the time for various reasons, including security.
Right.
But once the construction's completed, those fences usually come down. So if somebody chooses to leave it up there, it stays?
In this situation, it was not constructed for security purposes. It wasn't to block people
Right.
in. It was probably to make it a selling point when they were selling the lots to say that they already have an existing fence.
Right, but it was put up inappropriately.
Well, I mean, if, to that question, though, if it was part of the plat and the Board of County Commissioners approved it, they have blessed it in essence.
But it was not part of the plat. It was part of the engineering plans.
That's why I'm, okay.
Oh.
That's y'all's headache. I'm just curious.
It is, yes.
That's not in front of us right now.
That's why they get paid, Bernard.
Additional question for staff,
Yes.
if I may. The required setback in this area is 15 feet, and that would include any part of a fence, not just a fence running parallel to county right-of-way. That would also include a hypothetical fence of that nature that runs perpendicular to the right-of-way, correct?
Yes, any fence would be included as
Correct.
part of that.
So by any normal standards, that fence would end 11 and a half feet shorter than it actually does?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, got it. Any other questions for staff?
Yes, one more question for
Yes.
staff. Have there been any other approved variances in this subdivision for corner lots specifically?
Multiple. 2662 Estuary Loop was approved in April last month to 5 feet. 2715 Estuary Loop was approved in 2020 to 3 feet. 3096 Crystal Water Run was approved in 2021 to 5 feet. And 2641 Estuary Loop was denied twice at 3 feet and 8 feet.
You said the most recent one was last month?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, 2022. Apparently, I'm in the wrong year.
Okay.
A year ago.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Sorry, thank you.
That's good. I just couldn't remember last month, I was thinking. Okay. All right, is the applicant present? Yes. Is there anything you would like to say, sir? Well, I need you to first come forward, state your name and address, so they can hear you and they also record what you say.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Michael Dantes. I reside at 3238 Upland Point, Oviedo, Florida, in the Hideaway Cove subdivision. I do have a homeowners association approval letter as well, approval packet if you want.
You can provide it to the clerk right there.
And we have walked around to all the other neighborhoods and everybody else and talked to people. They had no issues with it. We're currently building a pool. I don't know if you saw that in the other picture. Yep. Currently building a pool for our 3 kids, and it's just serving as a privacy for them to actually enjoy the pool outdoors without anybody, driving by real slow or looking in and staring at them. So I personally don't like that, so.
Sir, how much distance between the edge of the pool and the fence you want to erect?
From the edge of the pool to the fence, I believe, I'm trying to remember that. I know I had measurements of that.
One of the things we're supposed to consider is the minimum variance necessary. So I'm just trying to gauge in my mind how much green space you have between the pool deck and the fence.
I'm not certain between the pool deck. I believe it comes up to 10 feet. I'm not sure. From the edge of the pool to the actual end of the fence, to the fence line itself.
Okay. And if it was erected at the edge of the, or close to the edge of the patio deck, how far would that put it off your house?
0.
It'd be right on the house, coming
Yeah.
off the corner.
Yep, literally off the lanai.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
There were other, like she stated, there were other variances in the neighborhood that were approved for more or less of 3.5 feet. And we were told by the builder that we can attach to that fence. So we had that in mind when we were buying the lot.
Builders say a lot of things.
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us, sir?
The previous, the one that was approved 4 or 5 feet is actually, we measured out to be, I think, 2, almost 3 feet off the sidewalk when it was approved for 5. So we went in there and measured, and like, okay, well, we can approve for that, we can apply for this footage.
Well, if they put it in the wrong place, that's an enforcement issue with the county. It doesn't make it right. And it's from the property line, not the sidewalk. If the
Right.
sidewalk for some reason encroaches across the property line, then it could be in the middle of the sidewalk. It's hard to say, just looking. They have to use surveys.
Right.
Okay, any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? We have a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
move to deny based as currently applied.
I'll second that for the purposes of starting a discussion.
Okay.
You can go ahead, Jay, and I'll chime in.
I think it's unfortunate for this homeowner that they've been sold a parcel of goods that doesn't reflect reality. But that doesn't create an entitlement. And of course, based on the way this neighborhood seems to be developing, if we approve this, we sure know what's going to happen with their back neighbor. It's only a matter of time.
Okay. For discussion purposes, is there a lesser distance that you would be satisfied with, or are you pretty much opposed to?
This is just
The
tricky, because it
variance.
seems like this property owner has come in
I know,
with
I'm
an
just-
expectation of a pool that they've started building,
Right.
and it's kind of like self-inflicted harm on top of self-inflicted harm, and I empathize with that situation, and certainly nobody wants anyone looking in their backyard while they're swimming, and there's safety issues, but to what degree is that a self-induced harm?
To continue that, there is perhaps a larger setback that might be acceptable to the homeowner that isn't 3.5 feet, that would provide some amount of green space between the edge of the pool deck and the fence. I believe we have variance approvals on record in the subdivision for 5 feet, I believe was the smallest one.
There was a 3-foot.
There is a 3-foot, but what's the, do we know kind of what the average is, or what the majority is?
The other 2 are for 5 feet.
They're all pretty.
I question when that 3-foot, when was that 3-foot variance?
December
approved again?
7th of 2020. I'm sorry, July 27th of 2020, approved a 3-foot.
That said, it seems to me that the reason that the homeowner is requesting 3.5 feet is solely because that's where the HOA or the developer-built fence ends, which itself did not go through any sort of approval or variance request process from this board. If such a variance was on record for that fence, then I could have no objection to the homeowner wanting to tie into it. But
Okay, any other discussion?
I mean, I personally, I think, I see your side of it as well, but I also think that it's one of those things, we have done 3 feet. We have gone that, I mean, and I know that you said that, I see your side, that you don't want it to be a continuing problem now. And it's just everybody, back neighbor, and that neighbor, then that neighbor, but I think we've already kind of set that.
Well, we take them as we get them also. They
We do.
may not ever do it. Mr. Chair, I withdraw the motion.
Okay, you can withdraw the motion to deny.
Yes, sir.
We have another motion,
Make a motion to approve,
as requested.
as requested.
Do we have a second? Okay.
Never been denied a second twice in a meeting before. This is
You have
new
a bad
ground.
day.
It's a new ground.
So, do we have another motion? So, we don't have a motion to deny, and we
Do we have
not
a
approve
motion
as
to
requested,
approve?
so, or do we have a motion to approve it at some other variance?
I'd like to make a motion to approve at 5 feet.
At 5 feet, and we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, sir, it's approved at 5 feet, not 3 feet.
3.5.
Okay.
Just a quick question. So. Sorry. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you. So what do we do with the fence that's built?
That's sticking out?
Yeah.
Well, that's not in front of us right now.
Okay.
Kathy said that there's something they're going to be working on.
Okay.
So I would suggest you talk to staff, give them a call sometime, and maybe they can enlighten you.
Perfect, okay, yeah, because that would just look really weird, so.
Yeah, it's, we get developers all the time that tell people you can put a fence somewhere, but we don't often get them where they go ahead and build an expensive fence and just leave it, and that's not as typical.
All right, okay,
So, and the vinyl costs way more than a chain link.
it does.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right, and I get your question.
Pardon?
Well, the homeowners association owns it,
Yeah.
I'm assuming at this point. Maybe you talk to them about tying into your corner for now until the staff resolves it with them. That's between you and them.
Okay,
Okay?
all right, thank you.
All right. All right, next item?
Item number 9 is a variance request for 1301 Blue Stem Lane located in Hawks Crest subdivision. The request is for a north side street setback reduction from 15 feet to 8 feet for a privacy fence in the San Pedro planned development. The subject property is a corner lot and has 2 front yards for setback purposes. The front of the house faces Blue Stem Lane. The Kestrel Perch Place side is where the variance is being sought. The request is to construct a 6-foot vinyl privacy fence 7 feet into the side street setback. The proposed privacy fence encroaches into a utility easement, and a building permitting will be required to meet the criteria for placement within a estoppel letter. The proposed privacy fence is 8 feet from the sidewalk and 19.8 feet from the edge of pavement. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility. The Hawks Crest at Winter Park Homeowners Association has approved the request. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for staff?
Yes, this is the same fence issue again.
Okay, any questions for staff? All right, is the applicant present? Is there anything you would like to add?
Yes, please.
Come on down. Please state your name and address.
Brittany Baumgartner, 1301 Blue Stem Lane. I just want to make sure everyone knows that there's mailboxes on the side of our house, and many neighbors have said, oh, love your cabinets. They're, see how many children we have and our dogs. And everyone's like, oh, I feel sorry for you because you live at the mailboxes. So we just want the fence to meet the existing fence to cover the mailboxes for privacy purposes.
Look at it this way, at least you don't have to walk far to talk to your neighbors.
Well, that's true.
You can wave at them while they're getting their mail.
Yeah, you're eating dinner and they're at the mailbox. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
You're okay with giving yourself a longer walk to the mailbox?
Yes. Well, we walk out the front door anyway, so
So there you go. Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? We have a motion.
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion to approve, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, it's approved. Good luck.
Say goodbye to your neighbors.
You'll be socially isolated now because you can't talk to your neighbors.
Yeah, exactly.
Do I just call about the estoppel letter? I'm not sure what that is.
Call staff and talk to them tomorrow, and they'll help you.
Thank
Okay?
you.
All right, next item.
Item number 10 is a variance request for 3153 Cecilia Drive, located in the Paradise Place subdivision. The request is for a rear yard setback reduction from 30 feet to 23 feet for a swimming pool in the R1AA zoning district. The request is to construct a 12-foot by 78-foot swimming pool, 7 feet into the rear yard setback, measured from the edge of water to the seawall on Bear Lake at the closest point. 2 letters of support were received from the adjacent neighbors. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for staff?
Yes, question for staff. Is the seawall maintained by Seminole County?
No. It's on their property.
Okay. Thank
Sir?
you.
Question for all staff present, and this might be an unfair question to ask you all flat-footed, but as our packet refers to section 30.1345 of the Land Development Code, and how far these must be set back from the water's edge, normal high water line. What's the purpose of that?
To keep pools from infringing upon being too close to the lake.
What would happen if they were too close to the lake? What could potentially happen? In essence, this was enacted to prevent what from happening?
Well,
And I understand that might not be fair to ask y'all right here.
from my understanding, it almost acts as like another front yard. And so it's to keep the appearance of an open front yard from the lake side.
So it's more aesthetic as opposed to protecting environmental concerns.
Right.
And also more aesthetic out of concern for structural integrity of the seawall.
Well, that's up to a pool company through the building code to go through those types of processes.
Take me.
I know where you're going, Kathy Hamill, Development Services, and Hillary nailed the answer based upon the 30-foot. I can tell you that any new subdivisions coming in, we changed our regulations that they have to be 50-foot away from the water's edge, and that is for environmental reasons. But as Hillary stated, we consider this to be a waterfront, and because of the views from waterfront properties, we treat it the same as a front yard.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hillary
Thank you.
is correct.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Is there anything you would like to add? Do we have any questions for the applicant? Okay, is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? Okay, do we have a motion?
Second.
Okay, motion approved. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. It's approved. Good luck. That's a long pole.
Yeah.
You like to swim.
old. We need to swim well.
Well, she could be wide.
Yeah. Okay. Next item.
Item number 11 is 2 variance requests for 605 Orinal Way located in the Oakland Shores subdivision. The request is for a front yard setback reduction from 25 feet to 24.9 feet and an east side yard setback reduction from 10 feet to 8.3 feet for an addition in the R1AA zoning district. The request is to enclose an existing 430 square foot non-conforming carport and convert it into additional living space, 0.1 foot into the front yard setback and 1.7 feet into the east side yard setback. This concludes my presentation. Available for any questions.
The .1 surprises me. Normally we went for around to a foot or something to make it simpler for enforcement.
I mean, they were already asking for the 8.3. It costs them nothing to do it
I mean,
by the
it's
books.
definitely exactly what is needed.
It's an
Okay.
existing structure they're converting that's already
Right.
encroaching into it. so-
No, I got you. That's very exact.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
That's the engineer in you, you can't help yourself.
You engineers.
That's normal people working with a tape measure, like a little room for error. Okay. Any questions for staff? Yes, sir.
Our packet tells us that's a non-conforming carport. Do we know if it's a lawfully non-conforming carport?
The structure was built prior to zoning regulations.
1958, I
so
believe.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
yes, okay.
My guess would be it was.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present?
Okay.
All right, well, is there anyone to speak in support of the request? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the request? We have a motion.
Move to approve, Mr. Chair.
To approve, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Motion carries, it's approved. All right, last thing, minutes. We have minutes for March, but not April. Second. Approved, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Is there approved? Anything else for the good order?
No, sir. Oh, yes, there is. Last month, I had asked for a decision of a planning manager's appeal
Yes.
to be brought tonight. There was a conflict with the applicant's attorney, and so they asked to continue it to the June 26th hearing.
Okay. All right. I was actually expecting that tonight, and didn't see it. All right, well, everybody go home. Have a good night.
Stay dry.
My wife just texted me.